Okay, hello everybody and welcome to our webinar today. This is going to be the Online Fundraising Basics webinar or course. Should run hopefully just under an hour. I'm going to try and leave some room at the end for question and answer if people are interested in that. And we'll go ahead and get going. One thing I do want to say, I think we got a couple folks on the line that were at my session at the Texas Nonprofit Summit a few weeks ago. I can't believe that was already that long ago. And so I just want to let you all know that if you heard my session at the Texas Nonprofit Summit, some of this information will be the same, but there is some new information in here as well, especially. So my session at the Texas Nonprofit Summit was more of an intermediate session, and this is kind of taking a step back and looking at a little bit more of the basics and something that I think is one of the most important things you can do with your online fundraising, and that is creating what I call fundraising campaigns. And we're going to talk a lot about fundraising campaigns today and how to structure them and why they're important. And so there will be some similarities, but also some new information there, so I hope you guys get a lot out of that. So let's get going. So first of all, having a problem with the slide here. One second, I am frozen. One second, sorry, technical difficulty. Okay, one second, sorry guys. I am going to have to restart that, I think. See if it works this time. There we go. All right, sorry about that. Small technical difficulty. So just tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Richard Dietz. I've been in the nonprofit and public sector pretty much my whole career. I started a mentoring organization as an undergrad and kind of got sucked into the nonprofit world from there. Every nonprofit I worked at, I happen to know a little more technology than anybody else, so I became the de facto tech guy wherever I went. And eventually has now turned that into a career working on technology for nonprofits. My training is actually in social work, so I have a master's of social work from UC Berkeley. So as you can tell, I'm a real nonprofit guy, not just pretending there. I actually have that social work as a background, and you'll kind of see how that plays out in how I look at technology and how I look at a lot of things. That social work degree definitely comes out. What I hope is that by understanding the nonprofit world first, and then learning the technology after that, that I have kind of a unique view on the challenges and the struggles that especially small, medium-sized nonprofits have trying to utilize technology. So I try and bring that into all of my work. The company that I started is called Nonprofit R&D, and we really focus on helping emerging and growing nonprofits, kind of the small, medium-sized nonprofits, to fully use technology so that they can work on their missions and not spend all their time working on technology. We do this mostly through training and teaching about best practices. We also do actual consulting and support work as well. But where we're really trying to focus our energy right now is on that training and best practices, because we know that small, medium-sized organizations can't afford to bring in consultants every time they're having a tech issue. And so my goal is to get nonprofits kind of doing the basics on their own, bringing in some money with online fundraising, event registrations, all of that. And then once you have money coming in, then you can choose to hire a consultant or someone else to come in and do some more advanced sort of tech work. So all of those. So that's basically what we do. So now let's get into the meat of the stuff here, why you're here. So a quick agenda. We're going to have a quick overview of online fundraising. We're going to talk about the need for a strong foundation and what we mean by a strong foundation. And we're going to get into one of my favorite topics, and that is fundraising campaigns. And then we're going to finish off with some email marketing best practices, and then we'll kind of let you go on your way. So our goals today, and my goals whenever I am doing a presentation or a webinar, is to just get you thinking about some new ways to improve your online fundraising efforts. I always say that experts sometimes act like they have all the answers, but they really don't. As an expert or as a consultant, we might have some ideas of what should work, or we'll have some best practices or things that have worked with other clients, but it's not always going to work for your organization. So what I always try and push is just try and think of some new ways that we're going to talk about today, and then the most important thing is take action and test out some of those new ideas. Because the only way to know if it works for you and your organization is actually test it out and see if it works. If it works, do more of it. If it doesn't, do less of it. I also like to say no campaign is ever perfect or ready, so you just have to get it out there. I was just working with a client this week, and they were just really nervous to launch their campaign. The campaign ended up launching 2 days later because they were just tweaking and trying to make this perfect or that perfect, and finally I just had to have them push it out the door and get it out there, and then we can improve it as the campaign goes on. So pick one or two ideas from this presentation today and implement them, and you're going to start seeing something, whether that is a big something or a little something. And a quick question coming in, will you have this slide deck available afterwards? I'm trying to take notes. Yes, actually, thank you for bringing that up. I will, at the end of this session, I will record it, and I will shoot a link to the recording to everybody, as well as a PDF version of the slides. And I'm glad that you brought up these slides, because if you have been in one of my sessions before, you will know that my slides are very text-heavy. And there's a reason that they're very text-heavy, is because I don't want you to have to sit there and be taking furious notes about everything. I try to have enough information in the slides, so if you come back and look at it 2 months later, it's going to make sense. It's not going to be a picture of a teddy bear holding a heart, and then you have to remember what point I was trying to make with that picture. So there's a lot of text, but I think that's going to help you in the long run when you go to implement some of these ideas. So yes, I will make the slides available, and they are very text-heavy, so don't feel like you need to take furious notes. You're also going to get the recording, so you can listen to me again and again. I know that I talk very fast. It's one of my issues when I'm presenting. I get so excited that I tend to talk a little faster than normal. So just know that you have all those other resources to go back and view the recording and take those notes as well. So thank you. Excellent question. Okay, so what I like to say is when you're getting going in online fundraising or anything with technology, my first advice to people I work with is don't panic. As soon as we start talking about technology, people start to get a little nervous. Their hands start to sweat, and they're like, oh gosh, I don't know this. I don't know where to begin. I don't know where to start. So my big tip is don't panic. There is help out there. And your best friend in the whole world when you're working on tech stuff is going to be Google. And what I mean by that is if you're trying to do something and you don't know how, just type that question into Google. How do I insert an image in WordPress? That's your search string. You hit enter, and you're going to come up with videos, you're going to come up with articles, and they're going to show you step-by-step how to insert an image into WordPress. So whatever that question is, type it into Google, and you're going to come up with some very quick answers. You can also email us, and we'd be more than happy to help you on that, but Google is going to give you the quickest and usually one of the best answers that you're going to get. I actually find it funny where I'll have clients call me up sometimes and they'll have some sort of tech question, and while I'm on the phone with them, I will pull up Google and type their question into the search box and come up with the answer right there while I'm on the phone with them. They could have very easily done that themselves, but I think they went into panic stage instead of stopping and thinking about what to do. So don't panic, and remember, Google is your friend. This slide will date me a little bit. When I was a kid, my favorite show on TV was Different Strokes with Gary Coleman, and he had a tagline that was, "What you talking about, Willis?" whenever Willis would say something that he wasn't happy with or didn't understand. And so one of my pet peeves is presenters or consultants that like to throw around a lot of acronyms and a lot of fancy words, SaaS, CRM, CMS, ROI, API, all this stuff, and they never really define them. And usually people in the audience are afraid to raise their hand and say, what do you mean by API? What do you mean by ROI? And so it just goes on, and then I think you miss a lot of the point of the presentation. So I really go out of my way to not use an acronym without defining it. And if I do, please let me know. Type in the chat box, type in the Q&A box, and let me know that I didn't define an acronym, and I will go back and define that. So I try to work really hard on this just to make sure that we're all talking the same language. So that's just one of my little pet peeves. Another one of my pet peeves is the "I already know this" phrase, and I am guilty of this myself, so I know how easy it is to fall into this trap. So you're listening to a presenter or you're reading an article and it's telling you you need to do X, Y, Z, and your first reaction is, oh, yeah, I already know that. And my question I like to throw back is, but what have you done with that information? And like I said, I'm as guilty about this as anyone else. I just recently this week re-engaged with my email list because I wasn't following up with them on a regular basis. And I just basically admitted to I've kind of fallen down on my email marketing, and I really should be contacting you guys with more information. I'm going to start doing that from now on. So I know that I'm supposed to keep up regular communications with the people that are interested in my information, and I wasn't doing it. So, it's the difference between knowing what you should do and actually doing it. So my big thing is take action. Like I said, just take a couple things from this presentation, or take, if you're reading an article, just take something from that article and do something with it right away. The sooner you take action, the more results you're going to see. So first of all, a quick overview of online fundraising, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So what do we mean by online fundraising? And my first thing that I tell folks is online fundraising is not a donate button. Just because you have a donate button and a donation form on your website, that is not online fundraising. We see online fundraising as a coordinated, multifaceted process, soliciting donations using online tools, including websites, email, search engine optimization, video, social media, etc. It's doing a lot of things, all for a single purpose of raising more money. But it is not a donate button. It is actually a lot of actions that we're going to try and coordinate together. And it's one of the reasons why I like our definition of online fundraising campaign, and we're going to get into that in section 2 today, and I think you'll really understand what I mean by that and how we view online fundraising. So why should you be doing online fundraising? I used to spend more time on this. I used to have 5 or 6 slides that I would go through and have all this evidence about why we need online fundraising. Luckily, I'm getting less and less pushback on that. When I first started doing online fundraising, I would get a lot of pushback from folks saying, oh, online fundraising doesn't work. Our constituents don't want to donate online, all this stuff. So I used to spend all this time trying to convince people. I'm not going to do that now. If you guys are on this call, you probably know that you should be doing online fundraising. If not, I've thrown a bunch of the stats up on the screen here that you can read through. I'll highlight a few. But down below, there's 3 studies that I usually go much more in-depth into, but I don't want to waste our time on the call today. But the Cygnus Donor Study, which is right over here, sigresearch/download. Fabulous, fabulous research. So they poll donors, so people that actually donate, and they poll them about their behavior, online, offline, giving levels, what they like, what they don't like. Some fabulous information in there. If there is someone in your organization that doesn't believe in online fundraising, some of these resources you could download and present to them and do that. We also have a video on our YouTube channel that I could point you to that goes more in depth into these studies, so you can see why that is. So I will send that out to you guys as well with the recording. Why? I'm just going to write a note to myself so I don't forget that. Why online fundraising? So I'll send you that video as well, so you can even have them watch that video if someone is not convinced on it. But a couple of things I did want to highlight in here really quick is that people say older folks are not donating online. Part of the Cygnus Donor Study, they asked folks over 65 years old if they'd be making an online gift this year, and that was for 2012, I believe. 53% said they were going to be giving an online gift this year. So it's reached that critical mass. They've gone over half of the people are now donating online. So even the older generations are donating online. There's also 69% prefer electronic over print communication. So there's just a lot of little stats in there that you can use to convince folks of why you need to do online fundraising, but we're not gonna focus on that so much today because we all know that. So we're going to get into the first point, and that is building a strong foundation. This is one of probably the number one tenet of my company, Nonprofit R&D, is that you need to build a strong foundation first, and then you do more advanced techniques on top of that. And what I see happening with a lot of folks is what I call the shiny object syndrome. There's many ways to raise money online. There's, social media and online video and text to give, and all these sexy, quote unquote, ways to do it. And that's what the press usually focuses on, because the press is not going to write articles about, oh, somebody sent out a great email series of 4 emails and they raised more money than they ever raised. That's just not very exciting. But if somebody does a social media campaign or a video goes viral, that's a lot more interesting. So that's what gets put into the press. And then nonprofits start thinking that's what you need to do to raise money. Well, it's actually not. Those things, social media, online video, text to give, those things don't raise as much money as just the basics. And that's sending out emails, telling people about your campaign, convincing them that it's a good campaign, and giving them an online donation form. That is still going to raise a lot more money for you than spending all this time on social media. So what I like to say is it's not going to be as cool or as exciting initially, but it does get really exciting when that money starts rolling in. So I would rather have the money roll in and be excited about that than have some sort of cool campaign that that everyone's talking about, but no one's actually donating. So be wary of the shiny object syndrome. So now here's where my social work training comes in. So as part of going to school for social work, and most nonprofits that deal with kind of human services, counselors or anything, will be familiar with this as well. And this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So Maslow came up with this hierarchy of needs that people need to meet their base needs down here on the very bottom of the pyramid here. If you don't have food, water, and shelter, then that's all you're going to focus on. You can't focus on higher level things like safety and love and belonging and all of that. And so you have to have those base needs met. Once you get those base needs met, then it moves up into higher level needs, employment, resources, morality. If you get those needs met, you move up into love and belonging. And you keep moving up this ladder as you get your needs met and eventually get up to the very top, which is self-actualization, which is, like I say, is you're the guru on top of the mountain and everybody comes to you for answers. That's like the epitome. But you can't get up to that self-actualization unless you have those base needs met. And so with that as my background, I actually came up with something for technology, and I call it the online hierarchy of needs. And so what this is you need to have that strong foundation first. And with the online hierarchy of needs, that is a website and a prominent donate button. Now, we just said that having a donate button and a website is not online fundraising, but that is the first step. You need to have that there at least. Once you have that, you move up to create a very simple and attractive donation process. Once you have that, you move up into creating fundraising campaigns, which we're going to talk about next, capturing emails. Then you can move into the more advanced stuff that is, more exciting and probably more fun to work on, online video, peer-to-peer fundraising, social media, mobile marketing, all of that stuff. But you really need to have that strong base first. And an example that I give on this is, let's say you had a video that went viral. What would you do if all that traffic started hitting your website? What would you do if you suddenly got 10,000 visitors to your website in 2 days and they couldn't find your donate button, they couldn't find your donation page, or they found your donation process confusing so they just abandoned the process? That would be a huge loss for you. So that's why you want to have that foundation first and then start doing things to drive folks to that. So things you talk about on a strong foundation: clean, attractive website, prominent donate button, simple and easy donation process. This is a real important one, that simple, easy donation process. A lot of nonprofit sites, when I first start working with folks, they ask tons of questions. It's a complicated process. They have to click on 8 different pages to get the donation form. If you make it confusing for people, they're going to abandon that transaction and they're not going to complete the donation form. And my example for that is, let's say Target was having a huge Memorial Day sale, and they've done all this advertisement and press to drive people to the store, and they open up the doors and everyone rushes in to grab it. It's the most amazing prices ever. Everybody's all excited, and then Target has decided to hide the checkout somewhere in the store. No one knows where the checkout is. You have to go find it. That's going to really frustrate people. And sadly, that's how many nonprofit websites operate, is you don't know where to donate. Is it under ways to give? Is it under support us? Is it under help? Is it under, more about us? I mean, it's all these different places that people hide that. Have that donate button right on every page so that no matter where someone is, they're going to be able to hit that donate button, and then have a very simple process to check out. You also want to be capturing emails. Super important to be capturing emails. Email marketing is still the #1 way that nonprofits raise money online. We'll talk about that at the end. And fundraising campaigns, and we're going to go into in much more depth here coming up next. So the other thing that is kind of in between a foundation and an advanced topic, and that is, once you have your foundation of your website and your donate button and your donation process, I think it's really important to start thinking about your donor funnel. And the donor funnel is borrowed from the business world. So in the business world, they have what they call a marketing funnel or a sales funnel. And it's basically, over here on the right, you can see a picture of that funnel. You introduce people to the product or service, you educate them, you engage them, and then you get them to take action. It's the exact same thing when you're trying to get somebody to donate. You first need to get an introduction or introduce yourself to a prospective donor. You then need to educate them about your organization, about what you do, about why it's important. You engage with them by sending out emails, engaging with them on Facebook, kind of build that relationship. At that point, they then feel comfortable to donate to your cause. And another marketing principle from the business world that I borrow is the concept of the 7 touches. And what the 7 touches means is, in the marketing world, they say it takes 7 touches or 7 contacts before somebody feels comfortable making a purchasing decision. And I think it's the exact same thing in the nonprofit world. Somebody is not going to come to your website and the very first time they get there, they're going to donate. That is going to be very unusual. It's going to usually take you a little more effort to educate them and build up that relationship before they're comfortable to give. So what I like to push back on the folks I work with is, what are you doing with prospective donors now? If somebody signs up for your email list on your website, do you just send them a monthly newsletter? And what if that newsletter just went out? You're going to wait 4 weeks to contact that person? And then to get your 7 touches in is going to take you 7 months. That person may unsubscribe by then. They may be just turned off. They might have forgotten who you are. That's like too much time in between. So you really want to be thinking about, what are you doing with new prospective donors to get that education and get those touches in. There's a couple things you can do we'll talk about in email when we get down there to actually help with that process. But just think about that donor funnel and have some conversations internally about what you can do to better engage with your donors or prospective donors. So once you have that strong foundation, we're looking at Maslow's hierarchy. Once you have that strong foundation, then you can go on to those more high-level things that we talked about, peer-to-peer fundraising, online video, etc. But you don't want to do those first before, the reasons that we talked about, because, what if you did get 10,000 visitors in 2 days? You're really not going to be able to capitalize. You could actually do more damage than benefit. If people get frustrated by your website or your donation process, it might not be just that they don't donate, but they tell people about how frustrated they were, or they decide not to donate to you in the future. Even when you fix your processes, they're like, oh, that was too frustrating, I'm not even going to try it. So you might actually have done a lot of damage to yourself. So really focus on those basics. So now we get into one of my most favorite topics, and that is fundraising campaigns. I spend a lot of time on this when I'm doing my courses and my online course, and we'll talk about it at the end. Fundraising campaigns, I think, are key. And and I was just saying this actually. Fundraising campaigns are key to online fundraising or any fundraising. And what I find interesting about online fundraising is when you talk about it with some nonprofits, they'll say, oh, well, our direct mail campaign outperforms our online fundraising campaign like 10 to 1. It's like not even close. So we spend our time on our direct marketing. And what I always ask about that is, let's look and see, what are you doing online versus what you're doing offline. Usually with a direct mail campaign, people spend weeks and weeks crafting the letters. They send out 2 or 3 letters, and they're all about a campaign. They have great photos. They got compelling reasons to give. They spend all this time and effort building this amazing campaign, and then on their online fundraising, they put up a donate button and say, please support us online. And then they wonder why the offline marketing or the offline campaign is outperforming the online campaign. That's apples and oranges. You're really not comparing them fairly. I think if you spend as much time on your online campaign building that story, communicating multiple times through email and doing all that, you should be much more successful with your online campaign. Because for one, it's cheaper. It's virtually free to send out emails. I mean, once you pay your monthly fee for Constant Contact or MailChimp, you can send out as many emails as you want, and you're not going to have to pay to have that mailed every time. So your ROI, your return on investment, should be higher just right off the bat, just because it's so much cheaper to do online. So really think about that when you're doing that. So fundraising campaigns can be used all over. I just think a lot of nonprofits don't think about online fundraising as a fundraising campaign. So fundraising campaign is also the framework. It's what we use to build all of our strategies. All of our online strategies are all built around the fundraising campaign. They all kind of feed into this framework. And so that's why it's so important to have that framework set up. So a definition. So if you look online for a definition of a fundraising campaign, you'll get something like a campaign to raise money for some cause. Obviously that might be accurate, but it's a little too basic. So we have a definition that we've come up with that has multiple parts to it, and then we're going to talk about each of these parts on the next couple slides. So the way we define a fundraising campaign is a coordinated series of actions that utilize a specific goal, a clear call to action, a sense of urgency, a compelling story, and it's part of a larger supporter cultivation system. Let's talk about each one of these so you know what we mean by each one of those. So coordinated series of actions. We've been talking about this already. I've said it a number of times. It's not a donate button and a single email that you send out. It is multiple emails, multiple touches. It could be social media. It could be an online video that you email out. It could be an event that you have. But it is a coordinated series of actions. All of the actions are feeding into this one campaign. So if you have a campaign to build a new after-school program, you're going to talk about the after-school program in your emails. You're going to talk about it on social media. If you have a live event, you're going to talk about the after-school program. So your supporters are hearing you talking about this in multiple ways. You're going to get those 7 touches in because it now becomes multi-appeal. So that is really key. Next thing is it needs to be a specific goal. One of the reasons why people don't raise a lot of money online is because they have a donate button and it just says, donate to help us today. And people are like, okay, but if I donate, where's that money going? What am I doing? I don't know how it's helping. So you want to have a specific goal, something that you're really trying to raise money for. This could be to build the after-school program. This could be to engage more clients. You know, say you have a wait list of 250 clients that you can't work with right now. The campaign could be to get rid of the backlog on that wait list. But let people know a little bit more about where their money is going to go. And it shouldn't just be a number. It shouldn't be we're trying to raise $100,000. It should be what that number means. If we raise $100,000, we can start the after-school program. If we raise the $100,000, we can get rid of our backlog on the wait list. There has to be some reasons behind that. You're going to see that your online fundraising will go up dramatically when people can see what there is, what their money is going to do. The next is a clear call to action. What exactly do you want them to do? When I work on emails that people are sending out for their fundraising campaigns, they'll sometimes just talk about the program and they'll say, you know, thanks for your help. And they don't really give that clear call to action. You really want to give them exactly what you want them to do. You know, click here to donate today, or, you know, please support us now. I mean, give them something exactly that what you want them to do. People like to follow directions, so you give them that direction, they're more likely to actually complete the direction. So please do that, and tie that action to our specific goal. So click here to donate to the after-school program today is a much better call to action than please support us or donate now. You know what I mean? Give them the information you want them to do as well as how it's going to help. And I think you'll get a lot more click-throughs on that, which of course you can test in the program. So going on, a sense of urgency, and this is you need to build a timeline into your campaign. And so what this means is if you let people know that you're just raising $100,000 and, oh, you know, whenever it comes in is great, you know, no worries, just you give it to us when you want. People are going to delay that decision. People love to procrastinate. People love to delay decisions. It's better to do something later than to do it now. So we need to create a sense of urgency. And so you want to put timelines and end dates on your campaign. The example I have here is if we don't raise this money by August 1st, then we can't launch this school year. So people know they have to donate now so that you have an opportunity to build the new program, the new after-school program, and then actually get that launched and going. So give them those timelines. And so, you know, if you're talking about end-of-year fundraising, there's a built-in timeline. People know they have to donate by December 31st. They're not going to get the tax write-off, et cetera. Excuse me. I'm just going to take a quick drink of water. One moment. Sorry about that. A little bit of a frog in my throat there. So give them that end date. So if you're doing the end-of-year campaign, it does December 31st is built right in. But if it's a campaign you're doing earlier in the year, you need to create some sort of end date for that so people know that they have to give. So when they get that email, they're like, oh my gosh, I only have like, you know, a couple months to give. Now, when it's further out, they may postpone it. But that's why you follow up again with another email. That's those multi-touches. So we want to follow up as that deadline gets closer, letting them know it's their last chance to support the after-school program. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to launch it. So really think about that. Compelling story. Stories are so important. I do other presentations where I spend a lot of time on storytelling and probably will do an entire webinar on storytelling in the next couple months because I find this to be so critical. And it really is. So if the fundraising campaign is the framework, the stories that you tell as part of that fundraising campaign is what fills out the rest of the house. It's the walls, it's the paint, it's the roof, it's the pretty windows. It makes it a house. So a fundraising campaign without a compelling story is really just a frame, and it's not going to get people very excited. We are going to talk about that in a little bit as well. So stories increase emotion, and it also increases donations. People love to give to individuals, and we're going to talk a little bit about stories a little bit more on the next slide. The last point of a fundraising campaign is part of a larger supporter cultivation system. And all that means is following up and engaging with your supporters. If somebody has donated to you, what do you do with them throughout the year? What do you do to further engage, to build a relationship with them? That donation is only a small part of a fundraising campaign. It's the continuous follow-up engagement that brings you long-term benefits. If we go back to the donor funnel really quickly, another business principle that is directly related to nonprofits is it's more expensive to get a first-time buyer or first-time donor than it is to get somebody that has already donated to you to donate again. There's a lot of reasons for that. There's a whole psychology around it. But basically, it takes a lot of money to get them to do it the first time. It's a lot cheaper to do it ongoing. For one, they've already said they like you and support you, so they're going to be more likely to support you in the future. And two, they've kind of raised their hand and said, you know, I like this organization, and they've probably told some of their friends about it, so they're kind of on the hook for that. And then if you follow up with them, we're going to talk a little bit about that follow-up when we get to email marketing, but you can really strengthen that relationship, and you can make them be a year-over-year donor in your organization, kind of one of those long-time donors that we all want. So really think about that donor cultivation system. So here's a quick little graphic of what I see as a fundraising campaign cycle. So if we build our fundraising campaign correctly, this is basically what we're going to see happen. We drive traffic to our website using email, using direct mail, using social media, any way that we can get people to our website. They hit our landing page or our website, and that's going to talk about the program, the campaign. It's going to give a compelling story. It's going to give them all the reasons why they need to donate, get them all excited about it, and then they're going to take action. Now, what's funny is this is where a lot of nonprofits will stop with their campaign. They've driven traffic to it. They got them to the website. They got them to donate. Yay, we're done. If you notice on here, that's only half of our fundraising campaign cycle. Now the important part comes of following up. We thank them for donation, and we follow up with them throughout the year. You know, you can do a lot with those thank yous. You can thank them throughout the year. So don't just thank them right when they donate. Thank them 2 months later. Just send out an email saying, thank you so much for the amazing gifts that you gave us. We were able to build the after-school program. Here's a fabulous video and some photos from the kids that are now benefiting from the after-school program. And do that throughout the year. Just keep following up with them. Let them know how important they are to you. And through that, you build what we call donor engagement. And that is basically getting to know your donors, letting your donors get to know you, developing a stronger relationship and a stronger bond so that you can then feed the funnel. We go back to that donor funnel. They can then feed the funnel back into traffic to the website and all of that. If you do donor engagement really well, you can even do things like peer-to-peer fundraising. So peer-to-peer fundraising is a great way. So it's basically peer-to-peer fundraising, if you don't know, is where people can fundraise on your behalf. They email their friends and family and say, I really support this organization. Won't you come here and donate on my personal page? Well, peer-to-peer fundraising is great because it brings new people into your donor funnel that you might not have known. So if I'm a peer-to-peer fundraiser for your organization, I might email my mom. She comes to your website. She didn't even know that your organization existed. She becomes a new donor. She helps feed that funnel. So this is where those advanced strategies can really pay off dividends. And the only way to have a good peer-to-peer fundraising campaign is through that donor engagement. You really need to build those relationships. So that's the fundraising campaign cycle. As you can see, it's, you know, there's a lot of steps in there. There's a lot of things to do, but this is still really just kind of the basics. You know, it's not that much time and effort. So why do we think fundraising campaigns are so important? Because campaigns are compelling, donation pages are not. And what we mean by that is a campaign hits on all of the psychological triggers of why somebody donates. If someone hits a donation page, it usually has donation amounts, thanks for donating, it's really important to us, and they fill in their credit card information. That's not going to get somebody to donate. But a fundraising campaign can really be built to create those psychological and emotional triggers. It can tell these compelling stories. It can have photos. It can have video. It can really talk about why the money is needed. It could talk about where the money is going to go. You can do so much with it that it really gets people to take action. Because people give to people. And what I mean by that is people like to donate to individuals and individual stories. There's been research done on this where if you talk about problems in kind of an aggregate, you know what I mean? So like the AIDS epidemic in Africa, if you talk about it as, you know, how many thousands of people were affected and how many people die and all that stuff, you get a small amount of donations. If you start telling individual stories about people that are affected and showing how their whole family is affected and how they're struggling through it, donations go up astronomically because we're compelled to really be interested in those stories, and it makes it real. It makes it to where we can feel it. And think about those late night infomercials that you watch. So you're up late and you're flipping channels and you come across one of those infomercials about, adopt a child in San Salvador, something like that. They don't talk about the whole country, all the kids that need to be adopted. They really focus in on specific individuals. And I can tell you from the research I've done, infomercials are some of the most tested and researched psychological triggers known to man. They spend millions of dollars to try and figure out how to get people to pick up that phone and donate. So they have all this money to do that testing. We don't have the money to do the testing, but they do. And so they know that these individual stories work, and that's why they keep doing them. That's why when you see an infomercial for the ShamWow, they don't just tell you about the ShamWow. They tell you stories about people that have used the ShamWow. They bring somebody up from the audience to actually use the ShamWow. It's a lot more compelling when you can see it on an individual level. So really think about that. When you're building your campaigns, build those stories and build them around individuals so that people can really see. And I have an example here. There was a great example from the Austin Food Bank here in Austin. And if you look around at other food bank websites throughout the country, you'll see that they show a lot of kind of generic pictures. There'll be pictures of cans. There'll be pictures of the center. There'll be pictures of maybe people leaving with some bags. But I thought this graphic was so compelling and could so easily lead into an amazing story. So the graphic says, if you can't read it, yes, this is the face of hunger in Central Texas. So homeless gentleman with a sign. And so is this. And it's got this picture of this young girl who you wouldn't, if you saw her walking down the street, you wouldn't think of her as hunger, as a need for food and all of that stuff. So couldn't this banner lead right into a perfect campaign about little Marie and how she struggles in school and is having behavior problems because she's going hungry, and then they start going to the food bank and they're able to get the food, and now she's doing much better. Her teachers are talking about how much more engaged she is. So that could really lead into a story. So think about that with your stories. The graphics, the stories, they all key in to create kind of that emotional sense. So the other notion with stories and campaigns is the idea of emotion to rationality. And that is people buy based on emotion and then they rationalize it later with facts. Now again, I think this is directly applicable to the nonprofit world. So in the business world, this would be somebody buys based on emotion and then they follow it up later. So think about the new iPhone 5 that's coming out. There's people waiting in line to buy the new iPhone 5. They're camping out all night long to buy the new iPhone 5. They are just in a frenzy about it. Now, they will buy that because they really want it. They've got to have it. It's cool. It's sexy. It's amazing. But after they get it, after they make that decision, they will tell you 52 reasons why it was a good decision. And they won't tell you because it's cool, it's sexy, I love people seeing me with it. They'll tell you it's faster, Siri was greatly improved in this version, and they'll have all these reasons for it. So think about that when you're trying to get people to donate to your organization. You get them to donate based on emotion, by telling that story, by telling this compelling, amazing story about Marie and getting them to be emotionally invested in it. You get them to donate because of that, and then after the fact, we can just feed them the reasons why it was a good decision. So that's where the follow-up becomes so important. We give them, we email them with success stories. We email them with how their donor dollars are being used, client stories, staff talking about great success. We give them those reasons why it was a good donation after the fact. Another thing around fundraising campaigns is the importance of the reason why. People want to know why they should donate to your organization, and that's where the stories can really help. So we give them what their money's going to do and why. But the why is so important that there was actually some studies done around this. It's a pretty famous study called the Xerox study that was done by Langer, Blank, and Chanowitz back in 1972. And what they did is they went on college campuses, and there was a line to use the Xerox machine. So back in the day when everyone had to make copies of everything. So there's a long line in order to use a Xerox copy, right? And so people would, they would have a volunteer go up and try and cut in the line. And what they found was if somebody said, can I cut in front of you in line? 60% of the people said yes. 60% of people let them cut in line. But if they just added the word because, can I cut in front of you in line because, no matter what they said, that allowing them to cut in line went up to 93%. So just having a reason why, and some of the reasons were actually very stupid. It was because I'm in a hurry or because I don't want to wait in this line. People still let them go in. Now, if they said because I'm late for I'm late for a final and I'm going to flunk if I don't get there, it went up to like 98, 99%. So just having that reason why, just having that because why somebody should donate is going to increase your conversion. So really be thinking about that. And the last point on here is from the Community Philanthropy 2.0 survey is what do people want to hear about? This is where that rationality comes in. This is where we want to tell them why it was a good donation. They want to hear about organizational impact. What the heck did you do with my money? And did it actually do any good? They want to hear about success stories. So they want to hear more of those individual stories of people that actually are doing well, or animals that have been saved or rescued, or whatever a success is for your organization. So those are the top two things that they want to hear about. And down here, info on financial accountability, that was one of the lowest things. That was only 43% of people were interested in hearing that. Now we can give them that after the fact when we want to give them those rational reasons why it was a good reason to donate, but we don't want to do that too soon. So then we're now on to email marketing. And I'm going to go over this fairly quickly. Email marketing, it's still the #1 tool that nonprofits use to raise money. There's all these new tools on the market. Email still takes the prize. If you look at this graph here, and you'll see it when you download the slides, the text here is kind of small. But if they asked nonprofit marketing folks, what are your most important tools? Website and email were the two most important tools to them. So to me, that means those are the ones that are working for them. They would not want to give those up. Down here, they got Facebook and Twitter are kind of way down on the list. So email is still the most effective way. Email also fits perfectly into our fundraising campaigns and our follow-up strategies. It makes it so easy to get those 7 touches. It makes it so easy to tell those compelling stories and to build that donor engagement. It's relatively inexpensive, so you really need to be, if you're not doing it now, you need to be capturing those emails. Capture emails on your website. Capture emails when you go to an event. Let people sign up for your email list. Get emails any way you can. You can even put it in the signature of your outgoing emails. So all the emails you send out on a daily basis, you probably send 100 emails a day. Put a link down there to sign up for our e-newsletter and hear more about the success stories and the work we're doing. Just any way you can to get people on that list is going to be effective. I also talked some email best practices. The monthly newsletter doesn't work anymore. It's sad to say, but most nonprofits still do this big monthly newsletter that has 10 articles and all these photos and all this content, and I can tell you that those are not being read. And you should be able to look at your stats in Constant Contact or MailChimp to see that those emails really aren't being read or engaged on. And just think about how you process your inbox. You get there Monday morning, you sit down, you got 20 emails already in your inbox, you see one from your favorite nonprofit, you click on it, it's this huge, big newsletter with 10 articles, and you go, okay, I'll read that later. I got to check these other emails first. So you just put it off to the side for a little bit, start doing your other stuff. 2 days later, it drops off the first page of your inbox. 2 weeks later, you get frustrated with your inbox, you just start deleting everything. You never read that email because it was too long. You didn't have the time for it. So really start thinking about sending out more emails, but shorter amount of content so that people can scan it, click on it if it's something to do, or just get the information and then move on. Because you can't expect them to read long emails anymore. They just won't do it. You also want to think about your subject lines. If you don't get that open, if you don't get them to open that email based on the subject line, then you've already lost. They're not going to be able to take action. They're not going to be able to donate. They're not going to be able to do anything. So think about those subject lines and really think about a way to get them to open that email. There's an example here, Literacy e-News, January 2011, or 5 tips to create a lifelong learner. Now, if I'm a supporter of a literacy organization, that is going to be a much more enticing email for me, or subject line. Also, think about questions. Questions are a great way to get people to open up. I had a client that is a legal aid organization, and their subject line was, "Do you believe in justice?" ? And that's like, oh, that's kind of intriguing. Like, well, what do you mean? Of course I believe in justice. If I don't click on that, I'm almost saying that I don't believe in justice, so I'm almost compelled to click on it. So that's really easy. Make your emails easy to digest. Like I said, don't have 10 articles in there and a bunch of text. Use headlines, use bold text if you want them to see it. Use a couple photos, something that is easy for them to scan and easy for them to do. Another best practice, a single call to action. It's really important to not ask them to do too many things in a single email. Otherwise, they're just not going to do it. Yes, Karen, I am going to be providing the slide deck. You might have come on a little bit late. We're going to be providing a recording as well as the slide deck, so don't worry about taking extensive notes on that. I will provide that to everybody that is registered for the webinar. So that single call to action, you really want to give them one choice if you can in that email. If you give them 5 choices, they're probably going to take none of them because they don't know which one to take. So that's really important. So try and get that down, that single call to action if you can. And the example I give on this is they did this really famous study called the JAM study. And so the JAM study, they took over an aisle at a grocery store, and they had the jam aisle, and they put like 500 types of jam. There was just like so many types of jam that it was amazing. And people would come into the aisle, you know, Dad would come into the aisle with his list for the grocery store, and it just said jam on it. He'd go into the aisle, and there's all these choices of jam. And he's afraid to make a wrong decision. He's not sure which one his family's going to like. He's like, oh my gosh. He's like, no, I'm just not going to get any. I'll just tell them they were out of jam. So, well, honey, sorry, they were out of jam. Then they took all those out. The entire jam aisle now is just 2 types of jam, grape jam, strawberry jam. People come in, they only have 2 choices. Jam sales go through the roof because it's a very simple decision. I don't like grape jam, so I'm going with strawberry jam. And they just grab it and they go. So the fewer choices you give people, the more likely they are to actually make a decision. So definitely think about that. So action steps. So what do I want you to do after this webinar? I want you to commit to doing online fundraising and commit to doing it the right way. I want you to identify and set up a fundraising campaign and think about everything of that campaign, from the email to the landing page on your website to that donation form to the follow-up. They should all be telling those stories that we were talking about. They should all be coordinated into that series of actions. So when you go back and look at the slides, you can see all those things that make up a fundraising campaign and build those out. I want you to select just a few strategies or ideas and test them. Don't try and do everything. Just pick one and try it out. Pick 2 things, try it out, see how they work. If it works, do more of it. If it doesn't, stop doing it. Take action, collect results, evaluate results, and take another action. That's what this is all about. It's continuously taking these small actions is going to get you way farther. If you just do that, you'll be so much further ahead this time next year. It won't even be funny. So that's the main presentation. One thing I did want to show you guys really quickly is a new course that we have just launched. It's called the Online Fundraising Bootcamp. There's a URL for you to get to it there. I'll come back to it in a sec, but I just want to show you this really quick. I'm just going to take 3 minutes to show you this, and then we'll open it up to questions if you guys are interested in more questions. So it's an online course that we've built that takes you through everything we think you need to do online fundraising. It has over 30 videos. There's a sales page you can get to if you want to learn more about it. It's nonprofitrd.com/bootcamp, or you can do /OFB, which is what we had on the previous slide. And this page will tell you more about it. There's a video that walks you through everything that's included with the bootcamp. There's some testimonials of people that have gone through the bootcamp and how much it has helped them, and it tells you what all the different modules are. And I just wanted to really quickly highlight to you what it looks like on the inside. So once you join, and it's very nominally priced, believe it or not, it's only $47 right now. We're just launching it, so we're trying to get people in and using it. So for $47, you're going to get everything that you see here, including the videos, workbooks, action steps, all of it. So I'm just going to show you really quick. It's 4 modules plus a pre-training. There is that video I talked about why online fundraising is important. Within each module, there's a number of lessons. So if I go into the module 2 for fundraising campaigns, so you see we have a whole module on fundraising campaigns. I find fundraising campaigns that important that we have a whole module on it. And within that, there's lessons. Each lesson has a video that teaches you about that topic. Each of the videos are less than 10 minutes. So you can come in here, watch an 8-minute video about fundraising campaign planning. You scroll down, there's going to be downloads and resources. So here we give you an ebook. It's an ebook that you download that has templates for how to write the emails, has a planning guide for how to structure and plan your entire campaign, when to send your emails, how many emails to send, pretty much everything you need to build a fundraising campaign. And then we also have action steps right below that. So we tell you exactly what you need to go do after you watch this lesson. And then below that, we have comments. So you can ask a comment here, and then we'll answer it. And then everybody gets the benefit of answering that question being answered, and you'll be able to see the questions that were asked before you. So that's kind of the structure of the lesson. We're really engaged in this. If people ask questions, we're there to help. You can email us with extra questions. You can go to the support button, email us. I didn't understand this one concept in here. And we're adding to this course all the time. So we're recording new videos. We're going back and re-recording videos as we find new information or as we find something else that actually works. And this really covers everything from what tools to use to do online fundraising, how to build fundraising campaigns. We talk about different strategies and more advanced strategies as well, like online video, peer-to-peer fundraising, all of that stuff. It is really, we think, a nice course. We've spent a lot of time on this. We've been wanting to do this for months and months. And this is just the first online course in our series that we have coming out. We're going to have more about how to move your website to WordPress. We're going to have more coming out just about online video, just about peer-to-peer fundraising. So this really is the direction that we're trying to take nonprofit R&D, is to put these resources in your hands at as low a price point as we possibly can do and still kind of put food on the table, so to speak. So we really hope you guys go and check that out. We would love to have you as members and would love to interact with you in there. Again, there's that link. It's nonprofitrd.com/OFD. We'll take you right to it. We'd love to have you sign up. And we'll open it up to questions now. You can type questions in the box or in the chat box or the Q&A, or if you're on the line, I can unmute and we can go there. I had a great comment come in from Corey. Thank you, Corey. Corey says, "This is awesome. I'm signing up to the boot camp today." Well, thank you very much, Corey. I appreciate that. I promise you I did not pay Corey to make that statement, but that is very nice to hear. If anyone has any questions, feel free to type it in the chat box or the Q&A. And I had a couple questions come in as I was talking that I didn't get to, so I'll go ahead and answer those really quick. One question came in was, how many campaigns should I run per year? And that is a great, excellent question. I find that most nonprofits really run one major campaign a year. That it's usually their end-of-year campaign, and then they'll call it their annual campaign or whatever it is. And I really do think that that is a mistake, because one, you're competing against everybody else running end-of-year campaigns. So people have to make decisions. I have to make decisions at the end of the year of what groups I'm going to support, because there's so many groups that want my support. There's a high competition, and I think you're leaving a lot of money on the table. So think about doing multiple campaigns throughout the year. If you're just doing one right now, you're just doing an annual fund, try and add one new campaign this year, maybe in March, kind of in a slow part of the year. If you're already doing two, try and add a third. If you're doing three, try and add a fourth. I think you can easily do 4 campaigns throughout the year if they are for specific purposes. So again, it's going back to what a fundraising campaign is, and then building that, and then getting people, having a timeline on it so it ends every 3 months, and then you can have a new campaign. If it's for a specific reason, people are going to understand why you're doing it. It's another way to further engage with folks. So I think that's a great question. Just try and do more. If you're already doing maybe 5 or 6, that might be pretty good. You might not want to do more than that. Karen says, I plan to sign up also. Well, thank you very much, Karen. I would love to see you on the inside of the boot camp there, and we would love to help you guys raise more money. Let's see, another question came in was, what tools or software do you recommend for online fundraising? Wow, that is a huge question, and you know what I'm going to do is I am going to do an entire webinar on tools and resources. If you join the boot camp, we have a whole section on our recommended tools and resources. So you can definitely get it there. I don't have enough time to go into all those here, but I could do a webinar where we touch on some of those. But if you want to get our input, if you join the webinar, you will have that all. Or if you join the boot camp, you'll have that all inside there. Just off the top of my head, resources I really like. For websites, I love WordPress. You really need to look into WordPress. If you're having any problems with your website, moving it over to WordPress is going to make your life so much easier. It's a fabulous tool. It's easy for nonprofits to add pages, add content, change links, so they can do all the stuff themselves. They don't need to rely on their web developer anymore to make a change, and it takes 2 weeks to make that change. As far as online fundraising and event registration, the product I really like right now is Sage Fundraising Online. If you want more information on that product, you can email me, and I can definitely give you some more resources on it, but I will add that into the webinar. In fact, I might make that my next webinar. My November webinar, let's just go ahead and say it's going to be tools, online fundraising tools. So that'll be the November webinar, which of course I will email out to you guys when it comes. And the other big thing you need is email marketing, and that most nonprofits already have an email marketing company they use, whether that's Constant Contact or whether that's MailChimp or Vertical Response. Right now, I'm leaning towards MailChimp, and the reason is because MailChimp is a great way to start. They have great online videos to teach you how to use the product, and it is free for your first 2,000 subscribers. So it's a great way for small, medium-sized nonprofits to get their feet wet with online fundraising and email marketing without having to spend money right out of the box. And once you go over 2,000 subscribers, then they have special nonprofit rates. Now, a lot of people use Constant Contact. If you currently use Constant Contact and you've been using it for a while, I say stick with that. It's a pretty nominal price. It's $40, $50 a month maybe. I'm not sure what the current pricing is now. But if that's what you're comfortable using, if that's what you have your template set up in, if that's where you have all your back emails, it's better to stay there than to just move to something new because it's new. My big thing about tools is if you're currently using something, start there, make some money, get some donations rolling in, and then look at maybe moving to some new tools. That is something that we can definitely help you with as well. So let's see, any other questions? Looking in the chat box, I don't see any other questions, nothing in the Q&A. So I just want to say thank you very much, everybody. I hope that was helpful. I hope I gave you a lot of information. I know it was a ton of information. I kind of have a fire hose mentality when I do my trainings, but I will get you the recording. I'll get you the slides and all that. It usually takes a couple hours for the recording to render, but I will shoot all those out probably this evening if I'm lucky. If they render it and everything looks good, I'll shoot out this evening. If not, I'll shoot it out on Monday morning. So I see some people doing the slider up into the hot section. Thank you very much. I didn't actually train people on that, but that was very nice. I really appreciate it. If you have any other questions, feel free to email me directly. Email's right on the list there, Richard@Nonprofit. Yay, we got more people saying that it was hot. So thank you very much. It's a cool little slider. So what people are doing is on the very bottom of the screen, there's a slider. You can move to hot or cold. And basically, if you like what I'm saying, it goes to hot. If you think I'm kind of an idiot, then you slide it over to cold, I guess. But so far, people have it up in the hot section. So I appreciate that. Thank you again, everybody. I look forward to talking to you guys in the near future, and I'll sign off. Thank you very much.